Alright, let's dive into something that's been buzzing in the property world lately. A couple of recent sales in Melbourne that are raising some eyebrows and sparking some interesting conversations. Here's the deal. A Victorian terrace in South Yarra just sold for $1.53 million, and a weatherboard home in Richmond went for $1.018 million. On the surface, these sound like pretty standard transactions, right? But personally, I think there's a lot more going on here than meets the eye. Let me break it down for you. First, let's talk about that South Yarra sale. The property sold $20,000 below its reserve price, which isn't uncommon in today's market. But what makes this really interesting is the vendor's mindset. The seller said, "We're happy to meet the market, we want to move on." Now, this might seem like a simple statement, but it's actually a pretty big deal. It shows a shift in how sellers are approaching the market. Gone are the days when sellers could hold out for top dollar. In my opinion, this is a clear sign that the market is softening, and sellers are becoming more realistic about what buyers are willing to pay. What this really suggests is that we're moving into a more balanced market, which could be great news for buyers who've been priced out in recent years. Another detail I find fascinating is the timing of this sale. The agent mentioned that if the property had sold last year, it would have likely gone for 10% more. That's a huge difference. And it's not just about the market cooling down, it's also about policy changes. The federal government's tweaks to negative gearing rules have clearly had an impact. If you take a step back and think about it, this isn't just about one house in South Yarra, it's part of a bigger trend where policy changes are reshaping the property landscape. What many people don't realize is how quickly these changes can trickle down to individual transactions. Now, let's shift gears to Richmond. The weatherboard home there sold for $80,000 below its reserve, and again, the vendors were happy to negotiate. This raises a deeper question: are we seeing a broader shift in seller behavior? From my perspective, it's not just about meeting the market. It's about sellers recognizing that holding out for a higher price might mean their property sits on the market for months. Time is money, after all, and in a softer market, sellers are prioritizing a quick sale over maximizing profit. One thing that immediately stands out is how this benefits first-home buyers, who've been struggling to get a foot on the property ladder. If this trend continues, we could see more young couples, like the buyers in both these cases, finally getting their chance. But here's where it gets even more intriguing. Despite these negotiated sales, agents are saying that things are still moving. In Richmond, for example, one agency made 35 sales in July, matching last year's numbers. This seems contradictory, right? How can the market be softening while sales volumes remain steady? Personally, I think it's because buyers are becoming more strategic. They're waiting for the right opportunity and pouncing when they see value. What this really suggests is that the market isn't crashing, it's just recalibrating. And that's a healthy thing. If you take a step back and think about it, these sales are more than just numbers, they're stories. The South Yarra property was owned by the same family since 1978, and now is going to a young couple starting their journey. The Richmond home, too, is changing hands after being an investment for many years. These transactions are about more than just money, they're about transitions, new beginnings, and the evolving dynamics of homeownership. So, what's the big takeaway here? In my opinion, these sales are a microcosm of the broader property market. They show that while prices might be softening, the market is still active. Sellers are adapting, buyers are finding opportunities, and the landscape is shifting in ways that could make housing more accessible. But here's the question I'll leave you with: as the market continues to evolve, who stands to benefit the most? Is it first-home buyers, investors, or someone else entirely? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on this.